For this lesson, we are in our text before Columbus. We are in chapter 8, looking specifically at the section titled High Risk. The first thing I see is this quote, "A wave of disease passed through the Americas, wiping out whole populations of Native Americans. The same thing happened wherever Europeans landed." High risk. The Native Americans were descended from a small group of original settlers, small compared with the large populations of Asia, Europe, and Africa. In addition, Asians, Europeans, and Africans had contact with one another over thousands of years, but the people of the Americas were cut off from the rest of the world after the sea covered the land bridge across the Bering Strait. This meant that they did not catch any of the diseases that arose in other parts of the world. Devastating illnesses such as the bubonic plague or the Black Death of the European Middle Ages were unknown in the Americas. So the Native Americans, literally their own world, they're completely cut off. They have no contact with anybody else. So these diseases that are rampant in Asia, Europe, and Africa, and other parts of the world, Native Americans don't have them. They're not being spread there because they're completely cut off. They don't even know about the rest of the world, or that there is a rest of the world. They are their own entity. So they are not exposed to any of these diseases. In Asia, Europe, and Africa, people lived in close contact with their livestock. Native Americans, though, had almost no domesticated animals. Without livestock, Native Americans were free of the zoonotic diseases, including smallpox and measles, which spread from domesticated animals to people. In fact, the Indians had experienced almost no contagious diseases, the kind that can pass from one person to another and burn through a whole region. So, talking about contagious diseases, the Native Americans have had none. They don't have contact with domesticated animals. There's just no disease. And it's saying that because of this, because they had experienced almost no contagious diseases, they didn't have any immunity to any of this. And it's comparing contagious diseases to burning through a whole region. We know that contagious diseases can pass from one person to another and burn through a whole region. And we can even compare that to what's going on with COVID now. I mean, when we got out of school in March, there were 90 cases in Louisiana. And now it's thousands because this disease is just spreading through this whole region and it's moving fast. Disease-free life might have seemed like paradise to Europeans who came from a continent where outbreaks of plague killed thousands and where every child was at risk of dying from measles or smallpox. By living with disease for so long, though, Europeans had gained some immunity or resistance to it. Europeans were exposed to common disease germs, usually in childhood, when they had a better chance of surviving because the childhood form of many diseases was less severe than the adult form. Some children died, but many lived. The survivors were immune to those diseases afterward because their systems were ready to fight off the next germs they were exposed to. So the Europeans, even though they've got these diseases that just spread and they're contagious, and yes, they worry, they do have some immunity to them. Their bodies have kind of adjusted, their bodies are ready to fight because they have been exposed to them. Because the Indians had not grown up with European diseases, though, they had not acquired any immunity. So this put them at high risk when they encountered disease germs. Some researchers think that the Indians were at risk for another reason too, a reason connected with genetics.